just a volunteer to open one person to just offer for us a word of prayer before we start, and then we get to continue the introduction part of it. Okay, so let's get continue. So let's pray, and then we get to continue the introduction part. So I'll pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together this afternoon, even across the digital distance. As we begin this online workshop, we ask for your presence, clear our minds, sharpen our focuses, and open our hearts to get the new knowledge and ideas from this workshop. Guide our facilitator, our speaker will be facilitating the event, and allow the technology to work seamlessly from all our digital uh, environment. May this time be productive, enriching, and inspiring everyone present. All I ask, trusting in the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. So I would like us to do a bit of introduction through the chat box. Just tell us your name, where you are joining us from, how did you get to know more about this workshop. Yeah, if you know more about Mobigas, or it's the first time you are getting this name, just tell us through the chat box so that you can continue from there. As you also still wait for others to join. Yeah, so from the chat box, I can see Rebecca from Ruiru. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. I can also see Mercy Masharia from Embu. Thank you very much for joining this session. Ivy from Muranga. I learned about this workshop through web development class offered by Immobilis, and I'm excited to be part of this. Thank you very much, Ivy. Good afternoon. Okay. Yeah, so Collins from Kikuyu. Collins, feel much welcome. Yeah, Coach from Savannah, Nairobi, thank you very much for joining us. Simon Kuria from Laikipia, welcome. Yeah, so let's just continue introducing ourselves to the chat box. Kevin from Kisumu is excited to learn today. Thank you very much. Welcome, Kevin. Lewis is joining us from Kitui. And he's trying to say that he was doing graphic design with AI. That's where he got to know about the workshop. Lewis, thank you very much for joining us today. Samuel Joroge from Nairobi, thank you very much. Maxwell from Kiambu. Yeah, so let's just continue introducing ourselves to the chat box. Hello, can someone just confirm if you are able to see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thanks for that confirmation. So, yeah, so thanks for that confirmation. So, as we continue, I'll take you through the program of the day. And for those who are just joining us now, feel most welcome and be ready to join to learn. So for this event, we have the ground rules that I'll take you through so that you don't get to tamper or you don't get to tamper in between the workshop. So the first is make sure that you use your official full name when joining the webinar or the workshop. Keep your microphone muted unless instructed otherwise. Utilize the chat feature to ask any question you may have. So those are the three ground rules that will guide us through the time that we will be having for the workshop. So the program, the welcoming from 3 that already we have done, the introduction that is currently ongoing on the chat box. So those who are currently joining us, please introduce yourself through the chat box. Then from there, we'll have a little icebreaker for around 5 minutes. Then we'll have an introduction of Moby Girls for those who are joining us who might have not known more, or it's their first time getting the name Moby Girls. Then from there, we'll introduce our speaker of the day, and then we'll have a Q&A session, then probably the closing remarks. Yeah, so let's let's continue introducing ourselves. Then we also have the hashtags for the day. So on my screen, you can see the hashtags of the day. So make use of the hashtags for the day and tweet our event there. Yeah, so we are going to continue, and we are going to have our icebreaker for the start so that everyone to be active for this event. So it's a small icebreaker that will take around 5 minutes only. So just hello. So are you able to see my screen once again? Yeah, so it's trivia questions that will take a few seconds for you to answer. So the first person to answer will be the winner by each question. Yeah, so just to take you through the first question. So the first question is, what programming language developed by James Gosling and is named after a type of Indonesian coffee? So the first person who will respond to that question will be the winner. Yeah, so so the answer is Java, and the winner for that question is Winfred. Winfred, thank you for your first response. So we are moving to the next question. What term means having no job but actively looking for one? What term means having no job but actively looking for one? Yeah, I can see some answers on the chat box of freelancing. Lewis is, so the answer to that question is unemployed. For Lewis being our winner, giving the correct answer. So we are moving to the third question. What does GDP stand for? This one I think is the easiest one. What does GDP stand for? So let's see the winner. So I can see very many responses, but Francis is the winner for that question. Gross domestic product. Thank you, Francis, for that. So our last question is, what is the name of the programs and the operating instruction used by a computer? What is the name for the programs and operating instructions used by a computer? I can see answers coming in. Yeah, so softwares. Peter, thank you, and thank you for your first response. Yeah, so thank you for taking part in that small icebreaker. And for those who are still joining us, those who are joining us currently, please make use of our chat box. Introduce yourself, your name, where you are joining us from, so that we can get to know each other as we move forward. Yeah, so as power program, so we'll give a little bit introduction of Moby Girls for those who are not aware of the Moby Girls. So I would like to invite Claire, who is also part of the team, so that she can take us through the introduction of the Moby Girls.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Karim. I'll be using his profile. Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to have you all here. There are 92 of you and many, many more joining. Welcome to our Job Readiness Workshop today. So mine is just very brief so that I can invite our great guest speaker, Rose Mwende, who's amongst us. So this came about after we had Brighter Monday at one of our graduations. And they did such an amazing job that we wanted more of you to experience and learn more about how to craft your CV and interview, how to prepare for interviews. So in just a few minutes, we'll be listening from our great guest speaker. But just a very, very brief intro about Moby Girls is that, first of all, Moby Girls is an initiative under Immobilis. So I know most of you have been part of our programs. So whether the Jira Digital Program, whether the Immobilis programs, the software development courses. So you're all aware of what Immobilis does and who we are. But for Mobi Girls, we try and empower more young women to uptake STEM courses. And from time to time, we have these webinars that are very inclusive. We have both the gents and ladies join in to benefit from various things. So we've done technical recruiters interviews before. We've been able to host webinars for mental health. We've been able to host LinkedIn guru, who was also part of this and helped us recreate our LinkedIn to be able to stand out. So today we are very, very honored to have Rose Mwende, who is, let me just pull up my screen so that I can do a proper introduction for her. Just give me a minute. Let me just share my screen so that you can all see her profile. Sorry for that. Just a minute. Mhm. Okay, let me see. Now it can be able to. Yeah, it seems that I can't see where that screen is. However, let me just do the intro. So Rose Mwende is a senior recruitment consultant with experience delivering exceptional talent solutions across diverse sectors and regions, with passion for matching up top-tier talents and critical leadership positions. She also helps companies build dynamic teams, with impact, innovation, and transformation. So whether it's helping organizations scale at operations or empowering them with leadership talent that makes a difference. So just to welcome Rose Mwende, who's going to be taking us through this session. Please be sure to ask. We'll be having a Q&A. We also have a Q&A chat bot there. So in case you have any questions for Rose, she will start us off and then we will be able to take over from there. So karibu sana Rose, we are glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for that very nice introduction. I'm like, is that me? Yeah, that's me. That's me. So I would like to share my screen. So give me a second, guys. I get the right screen. And then we can start. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Thumbs up.
Yes, yes. It's visible.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. That's the Mobi Girls and Immobilis team. Such an honor to have all 92, well, 92 includes me, so all 91 of us in this call on a Monday afternoon. I know you have a lot you can do, but you've dedicated your afternoon to this session, so I appreciate that. And so today we'll be looking at CV writing and interview preparation skills. So kind of walking you through what that entails. I think the intro has been done, but an interesting fact about me is that I actually started out in tech. I studied computer science. And so the trivia questions that were being asked, I was trying to answer them. And I'm like, these are things I learned in uni, which was way, way back. And I couldn't answer them. Like the one for software, I'm like, is that how software is described as? Is that what software is described as? I'm like, I don't remember learning that. But anyway, somewhere along the way, I transitioned into recruitment, which is something I'm really passionate about. I love, just linking people with opportunities. I'm like that middle person. between opportunities and you who's looking for an opportunity. And so that's why I'm very passionate about this topic on CV writing and interview prep. And I wanted to kind of challenge one of the questions that was asked by Omondi, I think, um, on the definition of someone who's actively job hunting but has no job as unemployed. I thought it was you describe it as like job hunter. You're hunting for a job, but you're jobless, but you're hunting for a job. But that's on a light note. So that's a little bit about me and kind of a brief about my background. And so the session today, the objective is to provide you with the tools and knowledge to create a professional CV and excel in interviews. So by the end of this session, any questions that you may ask, and feel free to use the chat box, should be geared towards understanding how to master your CV and how to excel in interviews. So feel free to use the chat box to ask questions. And I think I'll ask the host if I miss any question, please help me to kind of ensure we go through them. And I'll take the questions towards the end so that we cover the content and then, then answer the questions in the end. So the first question I'll ask you, even as we're thinking about CV writing and interview preparation, because you are the product, you're selling yourself to an employer, right? So do you know what you're offering? Do you know what skills you have? Do you know what you're bringing to the table? Whether or not you've had a job before, or this would be like your very first job, do you know what you're offering? And in our space, which is a tech space, a lot of times you'll also find normal full-time employment or part-time employment, but there's also gig work, which is like you work for a few hours a day or you work remotely. So even in those conversations where you get opportunities that allow you to work a few hours a day, or you're bidding or pitching for a specific type of job or project, whether it's like web development or developing a mobile app, do you know exactly what you're offering? And you can begin thinking about that if it's something that you've never thought about. And a good way to think about it is to understand your abilities. What can you do? What can't you do? Look at your technical skills and look at your soft skills. Remember, an employer will always look at both. Um, Technical skills are very important. Of course, you have to know your craft or have some knowledge of your craft. But it's important to also combine that with soft skills because, in fact, a couple of months ago, we had an event with a couple of employers, and one of the questions we were asking them is, would you rather hire someone who's very good technically but has minimal soft skills, or someone who has like really good soft skills and minimal technical skills, and you can train them? And you can guess what they went for, the second option, which means that soft skills are quite critical when it comes to getting a job or to kind of excelling in the workplace. So things like time management, communication, problem solving, you know, interpersonal relationships, relationship building, critical thinking, all that. Employers really want that combined with the technical skills you have. So even if you can code, at least be able to talk to people, communicate clearly, be on time, deliver on time as per the deadlines and all that. So understand your abilities and be honest with yourself because you're auditing yourself. There's no one in the room with you, just you. So you can say, for example, a good place to start in terms of understanding your abilities is you definitely have some roles or jobs that you're targeting. So maybe you want to be a junior web developer, or you want to get into front end or back end or quality assurance, whatever the case may be, at entry level or at mid level. Do some research and understand what do those job descriptions look like? What do they ask for? And you can check the responsibilities. Just read through a couple of job descriptions from different organizations. And this you can find when you Google, you can find on the internet, both local organizations and international organizations. And read through and see what are the qualifications they look for, and both in terms of skill set and, just like educational background. And then look at a few, job descriptions and then tabulate like some of the skills that they mentioned they require in those roles. and see where do you fall? If you're to rate yourself in some of those skills, where would you be? If you sit between 0 and 3, then you have some work to do. If you sit between 3 and 5, then you're good. If you're to do on a scale of 0 to 5. And the aim of this is not to put yourself down, it's to actually be very realistic and see, even as you're job hunting, what learning areas or what improvements can you make on your skills as you job hunt, and as you kind of look for a job and as you apply and all that stuff. So it's important to understand what you're bringing to the table in terms of the skills, experience, and remember, no experience is too small. If you worked somewhere for like 2 months, it's okay. Just indicate, I worked for 2 months and it was a contract, a short-term contract, or a special project. So that then people can see, okay, so this person actually has a bit of experience in this and this area. So it's important, number one, to understand what you're offering as you're thinking about crafting your CV. Thumbs up if we are together up to that point. Some reactions. I like an engaging crowd, so thank you guys. Um, so when we talk about CV writing, some of the things that it's important to think about is when you apply for a job, through any of the platforms that you applied for, whether it's directly to an employer, to a specific company that they advertised on their own website, or LinkedIn, or Brighter Monday, or any other job site, remember that a recruiter will only spend about 5 to 6 seconds looking at a CV, and then we'll decide whether to keep reading. So your first page has to really capture a lot of detail, because the first page is what determines if a recruiter will scroll down. And recently, I was given about 50 CVs to review, actually just last week. And as I was thinking about this webinar, I was like, okay, truly, because for those 50 CVs, I actually spent less than 6 seconds looking at each profile to determine if actually it was a good profile to proceed to the next stage. And so you want your profile, or you want your CV to actually stand out, because it is what is used to market you in the best possible way when you are not in the room. Your CV is what speaks for you. Whether you send your CV to a friend who's going to refer you to someone else or to recommend you to someone else, your CV is what speaks for you when you're not in the room. So you need to make sure that it actually stands out. So what are the things to include on a CV? And there are different types of CVs, guys. Like I'm sure you've seen all sorts of formats, but I recommend having a simple one that captures these particular sections, your name and your contact details. And contact details doesn't mean you put in there your marital status, your date of birth, your age. No, just include your full names as it appears on LinkedIn, on any other platform that you're signed up on, that you're using to look for a role. Because sometimes you'll find in your CV you've written Rose Mwende, and then in that's on the CV. Then when I go to LinkedIn, it's like Rose and Rose Mulu, which is my third name. And it's like, are these two the same people? Or is it, two different people? So let your naming be consistent across all the platforms that you're using to find an opportunity, including your CV. So that's a tip about your name, and make sure that you have no spelling mistakes. Professional title, in some cases you can include it, but you don't have to. So there are CVs where you'll have like your name as sort of like the title, and then maybe there you can say recruiter and then contact details. But you don't have to put in the professional title if you are not really sure what to put there. But just your name needs to be clear, your email address and your phone number, and you can add the link to your LinkedIn profile. And for those who are looking for developer roles, I would say you can add, whether it's you have an account, like a portfolio on GitHub or any other platform, just add that link there so that it can be used to kind of check for more what you've done in the past in terms of like practical experience. So you can have your LinkedIn link or a link to like GitHub or any other platform that you have your kind of work that you've done in the past. Then sometimes you'll have what we call a career summary or objectives, and that's like a summary of kind of what you're looking for or what you've done. So for instance, it could be like, I have 15 years of okay, in my case it's 15 years of experience, but in your case, if it's like say 2 years, just say 2 or 3 or 4 years of experience in software development, having worked at these particular places, but also talking about, because for software developer, the critical thing is to understand what languages you've used, that you're proficient in, and maybe some of the projects you've done. So you can just highlight it in a paragraph. And the good thing is we have all these AI tools that can help us to refine our story. Use them. Of course, don't lie. Don't say things that are not true, but just use the AI tool to actually help you tell a good story about, what your career summary is or your career objectives. Then we move to employment history. And I usually say for employment history, start from now backward. Like I'll say I'll start in, 2025, then 2023, then 2021, like that. And you indicate the title of the role that you held. Can you guys hear me clearly? I think my internet is a bit unstable, so bear with me. If it's not, please feel free to message me. Or to, yeah, I think the host, you can just message me. So employment history, you indicate the title of the role that you held, even if it was an internship position, the name of the company, and the dates. And on the part for the dates, one of the things that we found many errors on is you indicate overlapping dates. So it doesn't make sense how you've moved through the years you've worked or the months you've worked. So make sure your dates are actually really accurate, because that is what will, that level of accuracy also speaks to how detail oriented you are. So you don't want to have wrong information on your CV. And then you can indicate some of the achievements you've had in that particular role. So say you worked as an intern for 6 months at a specific company, you can indicate, it was an internship, maybe a web development internship or a software developer internship at company X, and maybe you did it from January 2025 to June 2025. And then on the next section, you have bullet points to say maybe, you developed 2 websites that are of this kind. Maybe it was an e-commerce site or just an informational site, or you supported a particular project. Just indicates 2 or 3 achievements to kind of give a view of what you've been able to do, because your achievements are what speak to your success. And then from there, you can add your educational background, which then you'd cover the areas, the places where you've gone, you've done, whatever certificate, whether it's a degree or it's a certificate or a diploma, just indicate them. And then you can add key skills. And here on key skills, include now those languages that you're proficient in for those who are techies, or the skills, or if it's finance, for example, you can say you're good at, budgeting or cost accounting and all those things. Hobbies and interests is not a must, but if you feel like you have very unique hobbies and interests that you want to add, you can add, but it's not a must to have hobbies and interests. And then references. For references, one of the questions that I've received quite a number of times is, should I put references or not? I usually say, for like if you have, say, less than 5 years of experience, just add the references, because at that level, you're so many of you and your CV needs to just be complete. And you don't want someone to kind of wonder, okay, references or not. Like it's just good to have it complete, your CV complete. So that if someone wants to kind of check your references, they can. Um, and you need to make sure that the people you put on your list, that they already know that they're on your because who who are you talking about? And it's like, okay, why did you add someone who doesn't even know that you're going to add them in your reference list? And maybe they don't even remember who you are. Avoid adding family members on your reference list. Avoid adding friends. Add people you've worked with, preferably peers or people you supervised. If you had a project you're supervising, and people who are supervising you. So that's like a 360 kind of view of who you are. Because what references does is a recruiter will call them to just find out how it is that, it was working with you or working in that organization. So that's what you include on a CV. And I realize that I don't have an example. I'll show you an example of a CV, a clean CV at the end of this. But these are the components. So as I go through this, check your CV. If you have it open with you there, just check if you have all these details. And what you don't have, take a note that you need to actually edit your CV and update it to include the things that are not that you don't have yet. Now, when we think about online, when you're talking about LinkedIn, Brighter Monday, and all the gig work sites, what they have there is a profile. You have an opportunity to develop your online profile. And if I use an example of LinkedIn, which is probably more popular to all of us or more common to all of us, and possibly Brighter Monday, I'm hoping that we are all signed up on Brighter Monday website platform so that you can, get access to jobs. But the first tip I'll give you is have a professional profile photo. Sometimes you'll find someone has put a picture of trees and it's like, okay, where is the person? Or you'll find that someone has taken a photo with their friend and you have two of you. So if I'm reviewing your profile online, I'm like, okay, of these two people, who is Rose? So you don't want to have that kind of confusion. Just have it like a very clean and crisp photo that is very clear, where you can be seen clearly. In fact, there's a time I came across a photo where the person had put the photo, like I think they had rotated it. So it was like you have to do this to see them. And it's like, okay, why did you even have the profile photo there in the first place if I can't even know? Like I have to do this to see you, to see the photo clearly. So have a clear photo. These are just examples. Um, and the reason why it looks like very simple is sometimes we think of going to the studio and you take a very nice passport photo, which is good if you have the time and the funds. But if you want to just keep it simple, just have a clear background, ask a friend to take a photo of you that's very clear, smile, and then upload it. You don't have to break the bank to actually get a good professional profile photo. If you can, well and good. If not, just use your phone, which has a camera, or a friend's phone. If you have a friend who has a really nice iPhone or Samsung. Um, no pun intended to anyone. And then one of the things on an online profile, especially for the gig work platforms, is you need to have a very clear, concise bio with key skills. So this is an example of a graphic designer who has 6 years of experience in branding, digital design, marketing collateral, and then is skilled in Adobe. So you remember what I said when you're doing your career summary, talk about the things that you're good at, especially the tools that you use for your work. So like for this person, they are very good with Adobe Creative Suite, UI, UX, and visual storytelling, which would be typical for a creative graphic designer. And they talk about, they craft clean, impactful designs that align with brand goals and engage audiences across digital and print platforms. So find a nice little bio that can just speak to what you can do. Even if you have 2 years of experience, be proud of that 2 years of experience because someone is looking for you. If it's 1 year, if it's a few months, okay, maybe just say less, less than a year of experience, or you can just go straight to talk about what you do. You have you're interested in opportunities in branding, digital design, and marketing collateral. If you have, say, maybe 3 or to 6 years or 6 months of experience. And then a big thing on the gig work platform is to list relevant experiences or projects, services you offer, skills and tools, as I've mentioned. And then a big part of online profiles is that you need to use keywords which clients or hiring managers search for in your field. Say, for instance, you're looking for an even accounting or even HR. there's some certain keywords that are relevant in that space. So for accounting, it would be what? Budgeting, um, it would be what? Cash management, it will be accounts. Make sure that your profile has those names mentioned. If it's a developer role, maybe front end, that it mentions aspects of front end. Like there's some words that can show, even programming languages, that can show that you're actually someone in that space. Because what happens with online profiles is that a recruiter will actually do a search using specific keywords, those particular keywords, if it's Adobe, if it's UI UX, and the profiles that will come up in the search kind of search list will be those that have mentioned those keywords in their profile. So whether it's LinkedIn or any gig work platform, make sure that your profile is complete and has all those, it has keywords, it has your experiences, examples of your projects, services you offer, the tools that you use, a very clear photo and a very bio. So in that summary, for LinkedIn, it is an about section. I'm also getting a message that my internet is not okay. Can I get a thumbs up if you can still see me or hear me or see the screen? Thumbs up, or I've lost you guys. Okay, thanks, Ivy. Yeah, so like for this example, there's the what we call the cover page of LinkedIn. So if you open your LinkedIn profile even right now, check if this part you've put any image. Usually we say you can put in an image of what it is that you do, or you can just have a nice cover image from the list of images that LinkedIn provides. Obviously, this is not recommended, but you'll find some organizations, especially international, they really don't mind such. But since we are in Kenya and we are looking for jobs locally, it's good to just to be safe, just have your photo. But in the West, they're pretty open to such kind of representations because it shows that you're creative and you have that developer spirit if you're a developer. But anyway, so you have your name, and then you have this is what we call a headline. And on the headline, you indicate, like in this case, junior web developer at Coordination. You could say junior web developer and put those like, I don't know what that mark is called on the keyboard, and just indicate the languages so that it also adds to the keywords. And then the about section for this person, they've talked about their history. They've added a little nice introduction about themselves. Everything I do is live and sleep code. Everything about web development fascinates me. So kind of made it interesting, but you don't have to do the same thing. What you want to communicate is that you love this thing that you do, or you're skilled in this thing that you do, and these are the tools that you use, that you're proficient in, and this is what you can offer. So they've covered the tech stack. They've covered what they're looking for. I'm keen to work more with JavaScript technologies and the stack related to that. And then they've mentioned what they've worked on. They've begun to create single page applications using AngularJS and React.js, but keen to learn more. So this is someone who's still junior, so it's expected that they would add this phrase. And then a call to action, when someone reads your about section, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to reach out to you? Do you want them to reach out to you for specific gigs, or for if they have an opportunity, or just to learn more about you? So it's always good to include a call to action. If you want to, you can add your email address. If you want to, it's not a must. Again, for online jobs, because I imagine that we are all open to both remote and on-site kind of work, right? So for online jobs, if you're applying, say, for a job, a developer role in the US, which is something that is open to all of us, yeah, as long as you have internet. Focus on skills and results, not just job titles. People really focus on what have you been able to do. Then showcase your tech skills and some of the tools that you're able to use. Add a portfolio or sample. So if you have links to some sites you've done or some projects that that are not confidential, obviously, that you're open to sharing with people, that's okay. Keep it one page. I think that's one thing I forgot to mention on the CV. Don't let your CV go more than 3 pages, because more than 3 pages, unless you have like 20 years of experience, you have a PhD, and you've done all this many, many things, just keep it 2 to 3 pages maximum, and just make sure it's visually clean. And there's what we call ATS friendly CVs, and ATS means applicant tracking systems. What you'll find is some employers will direct you to their website to apply, and then your application will go through a system to kind of like check if it has the basic stuff, and then it will be shortlisted or added to a long list. So if you want your CV to make it simple, don't make it complicated. You don't have to add a photo of you unless it is asked for. And just keep it like very clean and and the words very clear so that it can pass that kind of ATS review. And then you can make your CV to the role. So depending on kind of the field you're in, sometimes, um, oh, okay, sorry, I just got um, a notification of someone wanting to control my computer, so I don't know what that is. But yes, make sure your CV is tailor-made to the role that you're applying for and is relevant for the role you're applying for. I'm not saying that you morph your CV each time, but just make sure that you've read the JD, and if you are the hiring manager and you're reviewing your CV, that you're actually relevant for that job. Because sometimes you'll find you've applied for like 20 roles and there's no one who's gotten back to you. If that's the case, maybe you've applied, let me not say 20, maybe you've applied for like 30, 35 roles and no one has gotten back to you. Always go back and check your CV if it actually um, meets the roles that you're applying for. And sometimes you'll find you'll apply for, say, a virtual assistant today. Tomorrow you apply for a developer role. The next day you apply for a HR assistant. And it's like, then you come and say, oh, I've applied for 20, 30, 40 roles and no one is getting back to me. But there's no consistency, which role are you really aiming for? So consistency is key, and then tailor making your CV to the role that you're applying for. Um, so once you have your profile, which is like now your CV, and please ask questions on the chat box around your CV because we've kind of covered that part. Where do you find jobs? Where do you go to find jobs? Um, and as I'd mentioned, there's different platforms, and I'm sure you know others. There's Brighter Monday, there's LinkedIn, there's Relief Web. Relief Web covers a lot of the roles in the development world across the world. And they tend to also have some tech roles for those who are for those who are developers in the house. Then we have online jobs, and we have those freelancer related jobs. There are so many transcription roles, remote roles. Like there's so many types of online jobs that you can do. And on online sites that have different types of jobs. What you do is just study them, create your profile, and then see what's there. It's very competitive because remember, the moment it's online and remote, it becomes a global marketplace. It's no longer just Kenyans. It's no longer just East Africans. It's like the whole world. So make sure that your profile actually stands out. And a good way to check is look at people who've already gotten gigs on that platform and check their profiles and how they are. And just ask yourself, okay, does my profile even look close to this? Can I be trusted? Yeah. Another good way of finding jobs is joining community platforms. I'm sure Immobilis has a community platform. That's a good place to start. We have Propel, which has a lot of tech, online and remote tech roles. And there are so many tech communities even in Nairobi. And for those who are like not in Nairobi, the tech communities are online. So you can access from anywhere and still get notifications, or WhatsApp communities. There are quite a number. Um, and being part of that helps to network, but also helps to see what jobs are being advertised. Another good way of finding jobs is looking at company career pages. So maybe you've targeted, Google, Microsoft, the big ones, but also maybe there are other smaller, mid-sized organizations that you're targeting that you've seen in the space. just go to their website, subscribe in their newsletters, because when they have jobs, they usually will send you a notification. And one thing I forgot to mention on LinkedIn is even Brighter Monday, there's a way you can set up an alert that anytime a job comes up, that you get a notification and then you apply. Another good way of finding jobs is obviously social media. Um, there are people who actually advertise on social media, especially influencers who are entrepreneurs. They will advertise for certain roles, whether it's web development or virtual assistant or shop assistant, depending on the kind of opportunity you're looking for. Um, and even, I mean, there are so many ways you can use social media to find jobs. That's, TikTok, Instagram, and the like. And then events. If there are events around you, that are professional events where you meet a few decision makers, attend and make friends. Because sometimes it's just good to also know who's out there, and what people are looking for. And, in that way you can, find a hiring manager who can just say, oh, send me your CV and then I'll forward it to a friend of mine who's looking for someone. So take advantage of events happening around you, that are related to maybe, chambers of commerce, like the Kenya Chambers of Commerce, which has branches across Kenya, um, or even community platforms that have access to events, locally in where you're based. Plug in and see what you can find from those platforms. And then when you're applying for a job, which is the next stage, you've created your CV, it's good to go. You've gone on those job sites, you've identified a couple of jobs that you need to apply for, and you're like, okay, now let me apply. Some tips and techniques for you when you're thinking about applying for a job. Keep your CV and profile remote friendly, especially if you're looking for remote gigs. Um, Emphasize things like your skills, time management, self-management, or what's it called? Like that kujituma, self-motivation, like you're motivated. Ability to use tools like Slack, Zoom, Teams, Trello. A lot of that is for remote friendly jobs, which I think a lot of us would typically apply for because you can work from anywhere. But even those that are not necessarily remote, that are on site, that you have to go to the office every day, or it's hybrid, it's important to still mention some of the tools that you can use in your work. And then show achievements rather than tasks. I think I've mentioned that. Then another tip for you is that set up alerts and notifications anytime a job with a specific title is advertised. Why? You want to apply within the first few hours because sometimes employers will close that application after like 2 or 3 days. Like there's one role I saw last week, one of my friends had posted, and I told some young people to apply, and and when I told them to apply, I think it was within 2 hours of it being posted. I told them apply because I want you to be one of the first few applicants. And that was on Friday, actually. Today I checked and the role was closed yesterday. So for those who didn't apply, have missed out on that. So I would say if you have that notification or that alert thing, apply within the first, like I would say 24 hours. If it really goes far, 48 hours. Apply fast because you're not just the only applicant. Sometimes you'll find there's 300, 400 within like 8 hours. So be one of the first. In case you've seen a job much later, it's okay, just apply. But also remember that if you're like the 1,000th applicant, there's chances that you might lose out, but still apply. But I would encourage you, any opportunity you apply for, try to be one of the first ones to apply, which means you have to be, if you're really serious about job hunting, that you're checking those platforms daily and applying daily because what we call your application cadence, like the number of applications you do, the more consistent you are, the more you land an interview because you want to land an interview. You want to move from, it's like a pipeline. You want to have many applications and then have some interviews and then maybe 1 or 2 or 3 offers. So you need to actually make sure you're applying regularly. Set realistic expectations. Some job application forms will ask for salary expectations. So do a bit of research. If you have people who work in those companies, you can ask what ranges they have for, say, junior level or mid-level roles, or senior level if you have any senior level candidates in this webinar. Research about salaries and try to use like Glassdoor, or just look for reviews online, or just search, salary ranges for, say, Brighter Monday. If you can find, that's okay. If not, you can just go with what you think. Even if it's not that specific company, you can just research generally in the industry. How much are, say, interns paid? How much are entry-level developers paid, or entry-level accountants or HR assistants paid? And then you can use that as a benchmark. If you're applying for gig work, which typically you'll do hourly or daily rates, you can do a bit of research on the platform to see if you're within the ranges that some of the other consultants are. For gig work, start slightly lower as you build reviews, because reviews are what will keep people coming back to your profile. But also don't underprice yourself. Do the research, and then see what you can kind of price your hourly rate or your daily rate at, based on what is on the platform, if you can find. And then again, I said, stay consistent and patient. It takes dozens of applications to land your first job or second job or gig, or if you want to transition. So keep improving your applications and pitches. And for pitches, this is mostly for the freelancing work. So keep improving them so that you can land more hits in terms of being invited to discuss or being invited for an interview. In case you are rejected, if you get feedback, which is fantastic, refine your approach. If not, just go back to your application and just say, okay, what is it that could have made me not get this role, and change and adapt as you go. Other tips and tricks, I would say, yeah, tailor your resume or cover letter to the role that you're applying for, especially the cover letter. Don't use one blanket cover letter for all the roles you're applying for those that require cover letters. And in some cases, you'll find some organizations, even if it's a developer role, they will require you to do a cover letter. So at least have one template standby, but make it to suit the role and the company that you're applying to. For gig work, because you do a proposal, remember that portfolio is key, and you have to show work you've done in the past. So you need to tailor your proposal to the task that you're applying for, whether it's like design job, you want to maybe a designing of a logo, designing of a website, whatever the case may be, and personalize it to the client's need. This is an example of a framework you can use when you're writing like your summary message to someone you're sending a proposal to. You can do the greeting, where you're talking about, hi, sir, madam, I see you're looking for a graphic designer. I recently worked on a graphic design project, and you can detail it. Then your offer, based on what they've indicated that they need, summarize how you can solve their problem. Proof, share quick evidence. I recently managed, and this is the result I got. And then a call to action. Happy to discuss further. Here are my contacts. Then optimize your profile, whether it's LinkedIn or the freelancing website, freelancing platform profile, and make sure that your headline is very clear on what you're looking for. So whether it's virtual assistant, social media manager, software developer, front end, back end, full stack, all that, DevOps, whatever the case may be. And you can indicate kind of what you like to do. Be brief but impactful. Include relevant work experience. Remember, experience is king. Even if you did a gig for 2 months or 1 month, just indicate it. List your skills, your tools, what makes you unique, and include a portfolio or links to your work if applicable, especially for developer-related roles or design roles, UI, UX roles. It's important to include sample work that you've done in the past. Now, once you've received, so say you've applied, you've applied maybe those 10, 15 applications and you get one hit for an interview. It's important to understand why interviews exist. Interviews are not to intimidate you or frustrate you. Interviews are to assess your skills, your personality, and fit for the organization or project. Imagine if you were running your own organization, and you're looking for someone to help you, and maybe, or a project you have, maybe you've been given a project to design a system to do maybe an agri-tech system, and you're looking for people to work with you. When you're looking for people to work with you, you're assessing, do they have the skills needed to work on this mobile platform? Do they have an understanding of the programming languages? And then, can I really work with this person? That's another question you'll ask. Can they follow instructions? Can they give me feedback? Can they receive feedback? Personality. And then fit for the organization or project. Will they be a good fit for this project based off of their experience, their skills, their personality? Will they fit the already existing group of individuals I'm working with? So think about interviews that way. Because when you're going to even interview, remember you're also looking at the employer and asking, can I work with this employer? They're asking themselves, can I work with this candidate? So there are different types of interviews. I'm sure you've experienced this. There's phone, there's video, which is, like what this would be an interview, for example. There's in-person, one-on-one, and in-person panel. But even online, there can be a panel. And there are different stages of an interview process. Sometimes you'll go through one, sometimes you'll go through 5. And it's good to understand the company that you've applied for, because they will tell you, okay, we'll have 3 stages, and these are the stages. Some companies will actually indicate that in their job description and their job advert that, after this phase, you'll meet the hiring manager, you'll meet the HR manager, and then you'll meet a peer, and then the MD. So it's good to have an understanding of that so that you prepare better. So, but there are different stages. There's usually the initial screening to just understand your experience. There's usually technical tests or technical conversations, behavioral interviews, culture fit interviews, case studies where you have to go and, you're given an assignment and then you have to present. Presentation, which checks for oral skills, like can you present well? And then, then assignments. And it could be different types of assignments. Now, pre-interview preparation, say I call you and I tell you, hey, Ivy, your application has been received. We are calling you for an initial screening on this and this date. How do you prepare, you as the person who applied for this job? First, know the company that has invited you. Sometimes you've applied to so many that when I call you, you're like, please remind me which company this is. I think you should ask, and just say to the person calling you, if they haven't told you the company, just say, I have been applying for several roles. Just remind me which company you're from. Then they'll tell you it's, for example, BrighterMonday. Then find the job description that you applied using, like the job description you used to apply for the role. If you had saved it on your device, that's okay. Read through it to understand what the role entails, what that job description is talking about. If it was a terms of reference for a specific project, read that terms of reference thoroughly to understand the role. Then know your resume or your CV and portfolio fully. Sometimes you'll find that you have the CV in front of you and a candidate is taking you through their work history, and sometimes it doesn't align. So you'll find yourself being asked, okay, so you started at this place. Okay, then you moved to this place. Then why did you leave? And sometimes it's to clarify the things you're saying. So make sure you know your CV. Even when you give someone to work on your CV, go through it so that you know what is in that CV. Prepare relevant job achievements from your work experience. So when you review the job description, it will say that the role requires you to work in a team, to work on a project, and to do whatever the task is. Find relevant or described in that job description. That kind of makes you relate to the job better, even as you're explaining to an employer. Then prepare relevant questions for the interviewer. please don't go to an interview without a question. So that when you're asked a question, you say, I have no question. At least have one question because it shows some level of interest in the company, and shows that you're curious as well. And you can pick it from the job description on what is not clear. You can talk about their culture. You can ask about the next steps in the process and things like that. And then research the company. Learn more about the company because in some interviews you'll be asked, um, you'll be told, okay, I believe that you read about our company. What is it that you understood about what we do? Now, if you hadn't researched, you wouldn't have anything to say. So I've talked about um, understanding the role and the skills and the examples. If an interview is sent on email, please reply and confirm attendance. Don't leave it hanging. And after the interview, you can actually send a thank you note. It's important to that's like just courtesy. Research the client, check their website, social media profile, understand what they do, understand their services, their audience, their tone. Know your resume. I think I've talked about that. Um, yeah, so you've landed the interview and you're wondering what kind of questions to prepare for. It's very hard to tell what questions will be asked, to be honest, but there are very basic ones that might not miss. Tell me about yourself. That's usually the introductory part. So what do you cover when you ask, tell me about yourself? You'll talk about, I mean, you don't have to talk about like your family situation and where you come from and all those things. Just go straight into, my name is Rose. I recently graduated from JQuat with a bachelor's in information technology. And then from there, I went through internship at company X, and this is what I was doing. And then now I'm currently searching for an opportunity after my internship or while I'm still on internship. And I'm looking for opportunities in this and that. So take your when you're talking about yourself, you're talking about your career journey, no matter how big or how long or how short it is, you're literally just talking about that and the things that you've been able to do. If you've not been able to secure an internship anywhere, you can just say what you've been doing them meanwhile, or some of the activities you did in uni or when you're doing your diploma that related to working in a team, whether it was a project, whether it is a club that you are part of, if you led that club or if you're a participant, whatever the case may be. But what you want to come out is that you're a professional and you're ready to work in that organization. Another question you could be asked is why you want to work in that organization. And that question usually assesses motivation and ability to understand the role. Sometimes you'll be asked your strengths and weaknesses, although I've personally have not asked those questions of like, tell me your strengths and weaknesses. However, there's still some HR managers or recruiters who will ask you those questions. Then there's behavioral questions where you're given a scenario or you're given a situation and you're asked to respond to it. So you could be asked, like, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge in your project. How did you solve it and what were the results? And a good method or framework to use is what we call the STAR framework or STAR method, where you describe the situation and say, it was while I was in campus and we were tasked with a project to develop a model for ABCD, and I was appointed as a team leader. That's the situation, the task. Our role was to create this model as a team, and my role was to make sure that we present it on time. Action. We met severally during the project time frame, which was about 6 weeks or 5 weeks or the whole semester. And I used to meet with the team, with my my classmates or my team members every week so that we could build up on the model. And this is how we did it. What was the result? We presented this model on time and we actually scored ABCD on that project. That's in case you have zero experience. If you have experience, think about a situation that happened in your workplace that can relate to the question that's being asked and use this model to respond. Then, I mean, there are rules you'll be asked, how many years of experience do you have and what has been your achievements? Remember to always document your achievements and remember them because they are your achievements. You're the one who worked in those places, whether it was internship or, you worked for a year, 2 years, whatever achievements you've gained are yours. So you can actually freely speak of those achievements. Dress appropriately for the interview. If it's online, this is an example of a pretty decent presentation, if you ask me. Like, you don't have to go all out, just have good lighting, ensure that your device is working if it's an online interview, and a lot of them usually are online, and then there are those that are physical. If it's physical, ensure you get the details of the location in good time, because sometimes Google Maps will let you down. So make sure you're familiar with the route you're taking the day before you sleep, so that you can plan your route accordingly and get there on time. So I'll arrive 10 to 15 minutes for online interview in 5 minutes, make sure, and you're waiting, it's telling you update ongoing, and then it tells you 20 minutes. Okay, maybe rarely 20 minutes, but it'll tell you like 10 minutes. And you're like, I don't have 10 minutes, it's just right on time. So for online interviews, virtual ones, just join like even 10 minutes before, in case your laptop decides to do a thing or your computer decides to do those updates, or the application decides not to work. At least you have enough time to problem solve. Yeah, ensure your gadget is working, check lighting and sound, your microphone and all that. Then during the interview, listen actively, and ask clarifying questions. So if you're asked a question and you don't understand it, just repeat back the question to the interviewer. Just to get it clearly, you're asking me to give you an example of da 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 da. Be mindful of body language, when especially for physical interviews, you're fidgeting, you're swinging. Just try maintain eye contact, and you can put your hands on the table so that it keeps you grounded, so that you're not fidgeting too much. For online one, look into the camera or just find a space to just like on your screen, so that it doesn't look like your eyes are wandering all over the place. Then prepare questions to ask. These are sample questions you can ask if you've not had any. What does a typical day in this role look like? That gives you an understanding of the role and shows that you're curious about the role. You can ask, what are the next steps in this process? You can ask, how do you prefer communication and reporting from your team or freelancers if you're doing a gig job? Share results, not just tasks. Just don't say, oh, I used to um, write reports, and it's good that you did, but what was the result of that? From your reports, what happened? What benefit were those reports um, to the organization or to the hiring manager or to your supervisor? And then send a thank you note after the interview. Now, I had started the session by talking about soft skills, and I wanted to just end, this is one of my final slides, end this by saying it's important to develop soft skills. If you're a person who is not usually punctual, start practicing now. Show up on time for your normal day-to-day life thing. If it's a virtual thing, show up on time. If it's a physical thing, show up on time, because you don't build punctuality when you start a job. Soft skills are developed over time. So employers look for punctuality, communication skills, that you can speak clearly, you can listen, you can confirm, you can ask questions, you can seek clarity. Teamwork, that you can work well with others. And there was a question I was asked once, like, what if your role doesn't require you to work with other people? Fine, you can have a role that is an individual contributor, but remember, whatever you've contributed needs to be communicated to the next person. So you need to be able to work well with others, whether you're in a kitchen or in an office. Willingness to learn, that you're open to training and feedback. And this is such a critical thing that even as you go up in the kind of career ladder, even at my level, that willingness to learn is something that employers look for. Because it's an important one. We're in an era that things are changing so quickly. So if you're not able to learn quickly, then you can't be able to be of benefit to the organization. So Willingness to learn is key. Work ethic, that you're committed to doing your tasks, that you're responsible, diligent, and full of integrity. Employers look for that. Adaptability, that you adjust quickly when things change. I think that's a very critical one because things are constantly changing. Problem solving, that you're always finding solutions when things go wrong instead of blaming others. And critical thinking. And this is like being able to ask questions, seek clarity, get as much information so that you can make a decision. Employers look for this, and how they test for this is through psychometrics. Sometimes they'll test it through situational questions. Sometimes they'll give you a practical to check, is this person able to communicate clearly? Is this person willing to learn? Is this person adaptable? Or like sometimes you'll find even you've come for an interview physically and they deliberately start maybe 15 or 20 minutes late. And it's like they come and tell you, oh, we are running late because our hiring manager had an emergency, but they'll be back in 20 minutes. How do you react from such kind of news? So it's important to actually really develop these skills as you go along, whether you're in a job or not. Practice it in day-to-day life, because you can never fake soft skills. It always shows up in your day-to-day. So homework for you is, because soft skills are so important, choose one soft skill that you can practice daily. Maybe one that you feel, hey, punctuality is a problem. See how you can practice that for the next 1 month. Ask a friend or mentor to keep you accountable. And remember that employers can teach you how to use their tools. Technically, you can be taught, but you can't be taught how to have the right attitude, how to keep time. You can't be taught that. That's your responsibility. So even as you're applying for jobs and as you're going for interviews, remember, employers are also looking at this thing um, in the process. So I think I will end there for now. I think I've taken a bit of time. Happy to take any question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Rose, I think that has been a very, very insightful session. Let's see some reactions. Rose has really talked and has really given us a lot of knowledge. So please, let's appreciate her. Yeah, exactly. Yes, let's appreciate Rose for the really wonderful and amazing job you've taken us through right from the CV to preparing for an interview. So we really do appreciate that. So Rose, I'll be taking you through some of the Q&A. I know some of them you've answered as you've gone through your presentation, but yeah. So I think there's someone who asked here, how is my CV supposed to be? How many pages? I think you mentioned 2 to 3 pages. Yeah. So that has been answered. Okay. The next one was around what if dates can overlap because of working for different companies remotely, multiple roles. So how do you go about that?
I think that one you can explain it if you're asked. So the thing is, you don't want that you were overlapping because of error in dates. If you're actually working on multiple projects at the same time, that's okay. Just have it as that. Then you can explain it if the interviewer seeks clarity.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That has been answered. Okay, maybe we can go to one live question. Someone has raised her hand, and then we'll go back to the ones on the Q&A. Kimberly? Kimberly? Okay, as Kimberly prepares. So hi, I'm Adrien, and my question is, what if you're applying for junior role in software engineering? How am I supposed to tailor my CV? I think you went through that, but if you maybe just summarize it for Adrien.
Yeah. So if you're a junior, you said you're looking for? Just repeat that.
Junior. So what if you're applying for a junior role in software engineering? How am I supposed to tailor my CV?
Okay, so I'm sure you've done a couple of projects, whether you're doing it as part of a program or in school. You can indicate some of those projects that you've done in the past if you've not necessarily worked in in like an organization and all that. But if you've done some level of internship, indicate it and you can show, number one, the kind of work you did, the tools that you used. So if you're a junior developer, what languages are you proficient in? or your tech stack. And then you can also talk about some of the achievements you attained in your internship. Now, if you didn't do any internship and you're looking for that as a first step, there's projects you did in school or projects you've done as part of a program you've done in terms of tech. Indicate those as projects. Then the employer can actually be able to see that this is what I did, this is a stack, this is a link to the portfolio if you have a link. Because the thing about when I used to work in a software company back in the day, the head of engineering used to ask this question. When was the last time you coded? And technically, you need to be working on projects on your own regularly so that you can upskill. You can't say you're a coder and I ask you the last time you coded, and that was like last month. It should be like yesterday I was looking at my code and debugging and all that. So even if you have personal projects, indicate that you have personal projects that you're working on to show that you're proactively engaging in that space. Because like now if you ask me to code, honestly, me, I can't code because I've not coded in like years. So you have to show that progressiveness in terms of coding, whether or not you've had a job in the past. You're working on some personal ones at least.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And then is it necessary to mention the year completed in each level?
Each level, like where you've worked before.
I think so, yes. I think that's what Josephat meant. So maybe at
Yeah.
each and every level, is it important to indicate the year?
Yeah. Indicate the year. Indicate the year. It's important, especially because at entry or junior level, you're building credibility. And part of building credibility is providing information about about your studies, where you studied and for how long, and whether you finished or not, or whether it's in progress, or places you've worked before, how long that took. Even if it took 2 months, it's okay. You can explain that it was a contract or it was a short-term gig or whatever the case may be, but indicate it there.
Okay. There's someone who asked, is it right to add details like my contact email and location on my CV? I think you did mention this and you said it's encouraged. What is not encouraged is the marital status.
Yeah,
Right?
marital status. You can share location, that's okay. But sometimes it's like, yeah, if you're looking for a remote role, it's remote, doesn't matter where you are. If it's physical, location is important because if you're say in Embu, because I've seen there's someone here from Embu, from Oyugis, if one of the things the employer will ask you is, are you willing to relocate? If the job is say in Mombasa and you're in Embu, are you willing to relocate? If the job is in Nairobi and you're in Kisii, are you able to relocate? So you can always indicate the location. And in your cover letter, you can indicate that you're willing to relocate if the role is based in a specific county or town that's separate from where you are based currently.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Mercy asks, how can a CV be one page and it's in Word or PDF format unless it's the Canva graphic design type? It's difficult to keep it to one page. Kindly advise.
Actually, it is not. It is not. Let me see if I can pull up a one-page CV. Whether you create it on Canva or you create it on Word or even Google Docs, you can still have it as a one-pager. And I'm trying to look for one that I saw recently, and for some reason I can't find it, but I'll find it for you. Who asked the question?
Her name is Mercy, and actually, in
Martin.
relation to that, someone is asking if do employers prefer PDF or Word format when you are submitting?
PDF is easy to open and read even from the phone. So I would say if you have a Word one, just convert it to PDF. Make sure it's just well formatted on Word so that it easily kind of flows on PDF. But even .doc is okay, even when you're uploading on a site. But I say PDF is such an easy to open and easy to read. And you can easily share it on even WhatsApp. And someone can actually open it on their phone without being asked to download Microsoft Word or Google Docs on their or to log into Google Docs on their phone. So PDF is definitely the easiest, but you can still do dot doc.
Okay. So as you continue searching for a CV that you can share with us, someone has asked, are negotiations on salaries encouraged during an interview?
I would say yes, because sometimes if an employer only has one stage of the interview process, it means that the discussion will happen in that conversation. So what I would say, don't be shy to ask for an amount based off of your research, based off of you asking around, and based off of what you think would work for you where you are. But I'd say if it's your first job, because that's entry into the professional world. Um, don't start quoting 60K, for example. If it's like your very, very first job, I would say go by the internship amounts you've gotten in the past and just increase it slightly, or just look around at what interns are paid, like in normal companies. Forget the bigger ones who pay a lot more, but just a normal standard mid-sized, mid to large company in Kenya, for example, how much do they pay? And that information is online. Don't go too far from that, but also indicate that it is negotiable. And if you're asked to justify, I mean, rarely would you ask to justify. They'll just ask you, is that amount negotiable? And you'll say, yes or no. If it's yes, then in your mind, you know how low you can go. So it's like the way you go when you go to buy at, those secondhand places. How do you usually negotiate? You usually say, you tell the guy, okay, the guy will tell you, okay, this thing is 1,000. They're like, I have 500. Then like, no, 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 increase it to like 700. You're like, no, I don't have 700, I have 650. And then, okay, sawa, 650. So negotiation, don't look at negotiation as you're being attacked. You're just having a conversation on what the middle ground will be. So go prepared. Like how low can you go as an individual, and then stick to that figure. And just say, if I go below this, it will be such a struggle for me. So I would be comfortable with 35K or 40K or 30K.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm seeing some few hands up. Just we're about
Yes.
to finish the ones on the Q&A. So someone has asked, with so many candidates having similar qualifications, what truly makes someone stand out to employers beyond their CV?
So remember, when you talk about CV, if I have 1,000 applications, truly it's your CV that will speak for you. There's no other thing. Sometimes an employer will go to LinkedIn, but if I have, say, 500, let us say 500, let's say I have 200 applications, the thing that will speak for you is your CV. So the question is, how do you make your CV stand out? The truth of the matter is that you'll be surprised at the level of mistakes that people put on their CVs. Spelling mistake, you're out. That detail orientation, out. Even spelling mistake on your own name, it's like this person was not paying attention. So small, small things disqualify you. So you'll be surprised that out of, say, 200, maybe 50 are out because of formatting issues, or it couldn't open, or you attached a certificate instead of a CV. Then the other 150, it's like, how have you? And it's so surprising that you may think that everyone has a good CV. It's not the norm. So just make sure yours is really good, really, really good. And in case your CV now, you have like maybe 70 of you have really, really good CVs. The thing that stands out is now your experience, how you've written your achievements, what you've said. Does it speak to the job description? If it does, then you're good to go. If it doesn't, so there are many things that recruiters look at: formatting, date styling, like dates being accurate, um, and then in your experiences, like you've actually articulated exactly what you've done and the achievements you've had for me to actually make a decision on the spot on your CV. So that's how you make your CV stand out. Just have enough detail to speak to the job that you're applying for. So you can't apply for a HR role and your experience is like you've been doing what role now? HR, and maybe you've been doing web development. There's literally no correlation. And sometimes we apply for jobs haphazardly. Just be very strategic in how you're applying for jobs.
Okay, I think that's quite clear. And then someone asked about the hobbies and interests. So
Mm.
on that particular section, what should they include or what should they avoid?
Interests, I would say you don't have to have it all together unless it's asked on an application form, because sometimes some companies will have an application form. In case they do, stick to just normal things like, maybe you're sporty, because sometimes if they ask that, they want to check if there's any other thing you do apart from working. Do you have that work-life balance? So stick to things like, sporting activities or leisure activities that actually help you to decompress. Um, yeah. So you could say traveling or hiking or football or any of that. Yeah.
Okay, so the last two per se, they can go together. What is the professional color that I should use while writing my CV? And how long should a cover letter be?
Oh, I've never had such a question before about the color. I mean, stick to black and white, or neutral, like navy blue. Um, yeah, something that's like pleasant to the eye. If you use red, it's too harsh. Orange is almost not visible. Um, so stick to like gray, dark blue, black, colors, and then of course with a white background. Then what was the other question? I think that one caught me off guard, the one for color.
Okay, it was how long should the cover letter be?
One page is okay. One page, 3 paragraphs should be okay. And a paragraph is like maybe 4 to 5 sentences each.
And then the person who was asking about level, they mentioned they were asking about educational level. Like, should you mention the year you completed in terms of the education level?
I would say
Thomas.
entry level, yeah, you should. I think as you go higher, no one really cares, but as you're starting out, just indicate when you finished. If it's ongoing, just say it's ongoing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. There's someone who said, I've noticed a trend for most tech job ads seeking middle stroke senior level people and multiple years of experience. Would it be possible for Brighter Monday to publish a report that shows which industries value entry level applicants? Or even jobs stroke skills that are in most demand for entry level applicants? Because many of us would prefer to switch industries if there are no opportunities in tech.
Mm. I mean, most sectors are open to entry level jobs, even the tech space. And if you look at organizations that are hiring a lot of mid-level to senior level techies, if you look at their trend, if you kind of do your research, you'll probably realize they have a project that they want to quickly kind of finish. Or they're a startup. They want like very, people who hit the ground running. They don't have time to train. So entry level jobs are present across all sectors. It's just that for the companies that maybe you're seeing that have that senior level developer type of role are either in a high growth phase and they just want people who hit the ground running, or they've just started out. But in terms of the rapidly growing ones, I mean, manufacturing will always be hiring entry level. Financial services will always be hiring entry level. Telcos, um, retail. Those are like, and when we say entry level, it means, admin assistant, salespeople. Sales roles are very, very popular across all those sectors. Even accounts assistants, um, sales administrators, those are pretty, pretty common. But I would say don't give up looking for entry level developer roles. And then the ones that are adjacent, you can pick any of the sectors that I've mentioned, the ones that possibly you can switch to, and then maybe at some point you can switch back to tech.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you can ask your question.
So hi, my name is Hope, and thank you for the session by the Rose. So my question is in terms of when you send a CV, how do they like categorize ama wanachaguaje? How does the AI come in? I think that's an issue because kuna vile tukituma si wote, kuna wale wanachukuliwa na kuna wale wachukuliwi. Does it go through a system or what happens?
Yeah, so I had mentioned there's what we call an applicant tracking system. So you'll find a lot of the large organizations will have that. And what they'll put is, remember what I said, keywords. So they'll put specific keywords that the system will look through in that CV to see if it has. And it's the same way LinkedIn works, actually. When I'm searching for, say, and you can even try it, when you search for junior web developer on the search bar, even just on LinkedIn, if you open your LinkedIn, it will bring you a list of junior web developers, but the ones that are apoju, the ones that are fast, like maybe the 1 to 25, have that junior developer word mentioned like 3, 4 times in their CV or in their profile, in their LinkedIn profile. So what you want to do for an ATS is, number one, structurally in the CV, let me open a structure of a CV that is simple. Although this one is like someone who's way experienced. Let me share my screen. So you have a simple CV, especially for those that are, let me hide the name of the person. Ndio msiseme nilionyesha CV ya mtu. Okay, so you can see my screen. Yeah,
Yes.
it's on my second screen. So if I'm facing this way, msishtuke. So you want it to be very simple. Summary, professional experience, even if you have 1 or 2, that's fine. And then projects that you've worked on, education, skills, languages. This is such a simple CV. But what you'll find sometimes with ATS, if your CV has many tables, there's usually that on the side, there's like bullet points, and then there's bullet points hapo katikati. Sometimes the ATS may not necessarily read that very clearly. So have it simple and then have the keywords. Keywords means if you're looking for a developer role, you've mentioned the languages because they'll put that as a criteria. So if it's HTML, CSS, Java, Python, mention them that you have proficiency in. And then mention that web developer or junior developer or software developer a few times in your CV. So from your headline to your career summary to some of the roles you've had. So even if you've had an internship role, you can say intern, software developer, junior software developer, something like that. Because that's what now the ATS will use to see, does this CV have the keywords for this job description? And then it will pick the one that is a best match, so to speak. Hope, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Sharon? Okay, as Sharon prepares herself, Francis.
Thank you, Rose, for that session. It was very, very informative. Mine is more or less on the fact that with data protection right now, you find that most job seekers are looking for work. So you'll find you're sending up an application, they're telling you send in your ID as an attachment to your application. Sometimes you're asking for information that is more personal than you'd like to divulge. So when it comes to job preparedness, how do you look at it from a data protection point of view?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. What I'd say, number one, you as the applicant have the decision to make to like you can decide that I will not participate in this process because they're asking for too much. Because even if you ask them, if you go back to them and ask, what is this information being used for and all that, in case you send in your information and you see that it is not being used correctly, you can actually, okay, I hope there's no one here with an employer, but you can actually report, because what the data commissioner expects is there are laws around how organizations are utilizing employee data or data of applicants that they've collected. So if you feel like or you've seen and you have evidence that your data has been inappropriately used, you can actually report. But in terms of your control as an applicant over what the company is asking for, you can actually choose not to participate. And the moment you participate, you're almost accepting, those conditions that they've put. And then if you've applied and you've given that information, and you've seen that they've not used it appropriately, maybe you found it elsewhere, then at that point you can actually report. So it's usually a dicey situation, to be honest, because employers will always ask for all that information, and they are supposed to expunge it after a period of time. So there are ways you can even tell if they are using that information or not. But I would say the moment you're applying and you're seeing that they're asking for way more information that you're comfortable divulging, you can communicate as much to see if it will change. If not, you just now may not necessarily apply.
Yeah, I think that's well answered. The other question I think you had answered, you had asked about, do you include all the places I've ever worked or those related to the job? I think this you said you're supposed to custom tailor your CV to what the job application is about. And then the last one is around education background. What does it entail?
Education background is where you studied, like minus high school and primary school. Did you do a diploma? Did you go and do a certificate in something? Have you done your bachelor's? Have you done your master's? So have you been doing, even if you went to Moringa School and you did a course or any of these tech platforms or any of, like learning institutions, just indicate the title of the course, the learning institution, even if it's online, and when you got it. And to your question that you've asked before around if you should add all the places you worked, I would say it depends. Because if there are gaps in your CV, they will be questioned. So from that point of view, yes, add those that but in your description, you can actually see how relevant that experience is to the role that you're applying for, in terms of the achievements and the skills that you gain in that particular position. But it usually depends. Sometimes if you've worked, say, for a year in a place that's not in line with what you're trying to apply for, there will be a gap in your CV if you don't include it, and you'll be asked, in that 1 year, what were you doing?
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that clarification. So I think Sharon, your mic is now on. Are you able to speak? Okay.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, Rose. And I had a question concerning email application. Is there a format that you are supposed to use while applying our jobs through the email? And maybe how do we attach? Do we combine maybe the CV with the documents, or is there, just asking about the format for the email application?
Okay, that's a good question. So I usually recommend, so number one, if you're responding to a job advert, they usually give instructions on the job advert of how to apply. So they usually tell you, send this email to this email address. They'll provide the email address. In the email subject, indicate this particular role, and then you can attach your CV. So I would say first thing is check what the advert is saying in terms of instructions, because people usually, that can be a disqualifier that you didn't follow the instructions given in the job advert on how you apply on email. That's one. Two, If you're just sending your email to, say, a recruiter or for a specific job that you've seen that you've been asked to just send an email without any instructions, on the email subject, I usually recommend the title of the role you're applying for or the title of the role that you're targeting that you'd want to get if it's a referral. And then in the email body, I would suggest to just put a brief introduction of who you are, your name, what you're currently looking for, and what you've done, just a summary. And then your signature, your name, yours, kind regards, Rose Mwende, and then maybe a phone number. And then on the attachment, attach your CV in PDF form. That's my recommendation. And then you can attach the certificate separately, but they can be combined into like one document where you call it certificates. So you could have maybe 3 certificates, but you've highlighted, you've added them as an attachment separately, but you've indicated these are your certificates and your name. And for your CV, when you're uploading, when you're saving your CV, please put your full name, Rose Mwende CV. Then if it's certificate, you just say certificate Rose Mwende, so that the naming helps, so that it doesn't get lost in people's laptops. But don't attach the certificates, I would say, separately. But a lot of times, you'll be given instructions on how to attach. If they're not there, just use that method that I've shared with you.
Okay, does that summary you are talking about replaces the cover letter?
If a cover letter is required, it doesn't replace a cover letter because you want to give context of what you're applying for. So you can just say, hi, Rose, this is my application for the web developer role that was advertised on this date. Please find attached my CV and my certificates. And then my CV, my cover letter, and certificates, and then you attach. Like, don't ever send an email. And I've received that a lot where there's nothing in the email body, and then the title is just CV. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? So always have the title of the role on the email subject. In the body, just say why you sent that email. And then now you attach your document.
Yeah, oh, thank you so much. So the very, very, very last 2 questions. So because we are clearly running out of time. So Tom and then Regan, and then we'll close it off with a vote of thanks and closing.
Thank you, Claire. My question is about interview on AI. When a company is hiring people and the interview is organized by, it will be running on AI. How should one prepare for this kind of interview? We understand
Have you
today.
experienced one? Have you experienced one, Tom?
Actually, I'm almost going to attend one next week.
Okay. That's a very interesting question. And to answer that, I will point you to our site, brightermonday.co.ke. We have an AI career tool that helps you to create your CV, and you can take the 1-month trial, which is free, and use it for the month, which is free. And it will help you to, number 1, write your CV or rewrite your CV. Number 2, it helps you with interview preparation, including being interviewed by an AI, interviewed by AI. But in terms of preparation, when it comes to interviews where you're not talking to a human on the other end, it could be 2 or 3 things. Number 1, it could be just an AI asking you questions and then you respond. So there's no formula. Just imagine that it's someone asking you, tell me about yourself. Take them through that. Give me a scenario where you did A, B, C, D. Just use this method I've shown you. So there's not much difference. The only thing is that just make sure your internet is working, your camera is on, because I think most times they'll expect your camera to be on. And if it's not one that where you have to talk into it and you have to just type, just be ready. But a lot of those also have tools to check if you're cheating. So make sure you don't cheat. if it's an exam or if it's a technical assessment. But yeah, use a platform to just practice as well, because there's also an interview prep with a mock interview using AI that can help you prepare for an interview. But yeah, so there's that, and then there's usually what you call video interviews where you're just led into this interview room online, and there's a question that's asked, and you're supposed to talk into the screen. Same thing, just imagine that you're talking to someone who's asking you the question. It's not rocket science, but I'm happy to hear how it went, Tom, after you're done. But I hope that helps you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the final question is to Regan, and then we'll close.
Okay, good evening. Let me take this opportunity to thank Rose for everything. Now, I got only one question on CV. Under CV, you find that maybe you have different skills or couple skills. Now, how can you tailor a CV for different industry without rewriting it again?
Without rewriting it, I think the
Without
only thing
rewriting.
the only thing you
Or
change.
Mhm.
Sorry?
How can you adapt a single CV to fit different industries without rewriting many CVs?
It's not possible.
So you have
Although,
to.
it depends on the type of role, to be honest. So if, say, you are a developer, it doesn't matter which sector. It just matters that you can actually be a web developer. If you're an accountant, sector matters, because sometimes you'll find there are people who want an accountant who has been in the manufacturing space, or who has been in the fintech space specifically, because there are certain things that you learn in that space. So from that point of view, there's not much changing you need to do. I think the changing sometimes usually is if it's the same role, different title, but the work is similar. And if it's cut across sectors, it's like, say, for example, which roles can I think of? Can't think of any right now, but I would say the reason you tailor make a CV for a role is that sometimes there are nuances in a job description that if you don't mention in your CV, your chances of being called for an interview or even being considered are minimal. So, for instance, if a job description says that you needed to have done utilized Jira as a project management tool. Jira, sorry, not Jira, Jira as a project management tool, or Trello, for example. If you've never done Trello, what you need to do is in your CV, really mention project management tools such as you've maybe used Jira instead of Trello. So you different JDs have different things that the employer wants. One developer JD and another developer JD may not necessarily be the same. And you have to be aware of that to see what can you add that you've done, that you've not mentioned, that is in this JD as a requirement, that will increase your chances of being selected. If, say, it says that you need to have worked in a team, or you've done sprints, or you know how to do agile methodology. Is it agile methodology? Yes. If you've not mentioned it in your CV, chances of you being picked will be low. So you need to mention it if you've actually done it. Yeah, so I think when you think about one CV that suits all, it is not possible, because there are some things that are more important for one employer versus another. And that's what they will be looking at. So you need to be able to recognize those things. So when you say tailor making, doesn't mean like shifting your CV completely. It's just saying, what elements can I add to increase my chances of being selected that have been mentioned in this JD compared to this other JD?
All right.
So don't use blanket. Just be keen.
All right. It's all right. It's all right. Thanks for that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now I understand.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So allow me to thank Rose for her time, for the insights, for just being a really great host, and for all that you have done today. We truly thank you. And I know the participants are also appreciative. So I kindly to the participants, please fill in the feedback survey so that you let us know how the session was. What do we need to improve for next time? But just to thank you so much, Rose, we please feel our heartfelt gratitude. Now I would like to hand it over to Karim to do the final picture so that we can now officially close our job readiness workshop. Okay, fine. Karim, as Karim prepares, what I can request all of us to do, because as much as we are not able to be physically present, I would like us to just switch on our cameras so that we can take one group photo, just so that we can feel as though, this is somewhat a live session, even if it's not physical. So I'd like to request everyone to just put on their video for just a few minutes for a picture. Okay, Karim, please lead us.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So in the next 2 minutes, I'll be taking screenshots. So put on your camera and then I do that.
I think we can also smile. I think it has been a really good session. So let's not frown, honestly. Let's just smile for the camera. So let us know, Karim, when you're taking the photo so that we pose well.
Yeah, so I'm starting in the next 3 seconds. Okay, keep on smiling. Then stop moving. So if you have a background where someone is moving, kindly. Okay. Thank you for that. I'm done taking the screenshots.
Okay, then. So I think I would like to officially close our job readiness workshop. Thank you to each one of you for being part of this. We hope to be able to do more of this next year. Please make sure you join the Movie Girls community for more events such as this and job opportunities that we share. Thank you, Rose. I've seen that you've also shared on the chat section some that they should check out BrighterMonday.co.ke. We'll also share this via email so that they can all be able to join the link. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and have a very lovely Monday evening.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.